2 in the morning. You wrote that message twice and deleted it twice. And your hand is already reaching to write it a third time. Listen, before you write it, there are three things that matter more right now than any message. First, stop adding pressure. Second, if there is still content, bring warmth back into it. But drop the demand that he decides something immediately. And third, and this is the hardest, become a woman again who has a life outside the space between his messages. Today I'll show you how that's done, though the Sati Method. And a little later I'll give you the actual first two lines to answer with if he suddenly writes. Because that exact moment when the phone lights up is where an anxious woman most often restarts the whole cycle by accident with her own hands. I'm sweating, and this is not a small channel, no team, just me. Every Friday, I take one thing he does that you can't explain. I show you what's behind it and what's happening in his nervous system in that minute, and I'll give you one practice on paper you can do that same evening. That's the whole thing that happens here on Fridays. If that's what you need right now, subscribe. We're going to 1,000 together. One anxious woman at a time. Okay, quickly about me. So you understand where I know this from. I used to be the anxious one. 3 years ago, I sat on the title floor of a small kitchen, back against the cabinet, at that exact same 2 in the morning, rewriting one message 17 times. Not because I wanted to send it 17 times, because I couldn't tolerate not sending it once. That's the difference. And you know what? I trained as a family therapist. I knew the theory by heart. All of it. And on the floor, it didn't help me for a single night. Something else did. And that's what this whole video is about. One important thing right away so we understand each other properly. No technique will make a person come back if he's ended their relationship and doesn't want to continue it. We're not going to pretend here that we have a button for another human being. There isn't one. But if there is still attachment between you, interests, history, and the main problem is that familiar cycle. You reach, he pulls away. You reach harder. Then your job isn't to convince him at all. Your job is to stop making contact a place where something is always wanted from him. That's what I call the return. He starts coming closer on his own. Not because you found the right words, disappeared from the right number of days, or made him afraid of losing you. Because contact with you stopped feeling like pressure. That's it. But right away, question comes up, right? Okay, so what exactly do I stop doing? And what do I do instead? I'd show you through one story because you can see that moment really clearly in it. I'll call her Naomi. Almost 5 years together. He started pulling away and she started doing everything right. Writing less, giving space, speaking more carefully. But there was one problem. Her whole life still revolved around whether he'd come back or not. She didn't write to him, but she checked her phone every 20 minutes. She didn't ask questions, but she talked to him in her head all evening. So, on the outside, she stopped chasing him. On the outside, no. But on the inside, it was all the same. And that's what she started to change. With one sheet of paper, 23 days straight every morning before work. On the 24th day, he wrote first. And I'm not telling you this because it always ends this way. Honestly, sometimes the phone stays dark. I'm telling you because something changed in Naomi over those 23 days, and he felt it. He felt it through the silence. I'll show you exactly what she did. But first, three things you need to stop doing in contact with him. If you have an avoidant partner pulling away right now, I want you to check yourself against each of these three. First, get rid of the hidden chase. And it's not just don't send 10 messages. The hidden chase looks respectable. It actually looks like care. I just wanted to know how you're doing. I'm not asking for anything, just tell me honestly what we are. I respect your space, but when we're going to talk? Look, if there's already a demand to reassure, you're sitting inside the question. He reads it not from the words, from the interaction itself. The second, if you're still talking, don't turn every minute into a relationship audit. Warmth, yes. Punishing with coldness, no. Interrogation, also no. One good conversation a person doesn't need 2 days to recover from. Sometimes does more for closeness that 3 hours of we need to talk about everything. Third, take your own life back, and not as an Instagram trick. This part matters. Not so he sees a story and gets scared. Actually, your own plans, your own project, your own evening, your own interest. Because it's easier for an avoidant to come closer to a person who doesn't turn that approach into an obligation to immediately feel all of his internal distance. He steps in and everything is required of him at once. This third one I figured out last, by the way. About a year and a half after that floor. And here's where the hard part starts. You can understand all of this with your head, understand it perfectly, and still find yourself in the middle of the night with the phone in your hand. So, what we need isn't a new thought. You have plenty of thoughts. We need a small physical ritual, a method that intercepts the person before you send the message. And now, the most practical question. You understood everything. Drop the pressure, don't audit the relationship at every contact, come back to your own life. And then evening comes, he's quiet, and all the good thoughts go somewhere. And here's where I want you to hear the main thing. Every time you pick up the phone, you are confirming your old pattern. And every time you use my method, you are changing what he is going to feel. Not tonight, in about 2 weeks. Which means the Sati Method isn't a sedative for one night. Intercepting your hand is the return mechanism. It's one movement, not to separate things. Take a sheet, a pen, and a red pencil. Just a regular sheet. The first rule here is very important. We didn't write, I want him to come back. Ask yourself differently. Who do I want to be next to this situation? Calm, steady, a woman who can love him and not fall apart every time he pulls away. Let's write it. A woman who can love him, who can love him and not fall apart and not fall apart. part. Every time he pulls away. Every time he pulls away. Yeah. That's a request we can work with because his return is outside your body. You can't move it directly. You state you can. You build the state and the state moves him. Now look at the bottom of the sheet. Write the pattern that's taking you over right now. In second person only. uh, you are checking whether he's online again. Checking he's online. You circle that phrase once with a red pencil. Use your red pencil and circle it once and look at it. Because this is where a very unpleasant discovery usually happens. You thought you were trying to save the relationship, and one paper you see something else. You see what's happening to you while you are saving it. Not take the red pencil. Cross that person out 7 times. Slowly. And after the last line, lift your eyes to the top of the sheet. A different phrase appears up there from I. For example, I can love him and stay in my own life. I can love him and stay in my own life. In my own life. Say it out loud and stand up while you say it. And circle that new phrase 7 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the moment I'm most interested in. 5 minutes ago, you were inside his phone, and now you're here with yourself. I call it the return state. And let me close the question that's probably come up for you. How is he even going to feel this if you are not talking? Look, his nervous system is trained to read the room. He learned that before he learned to walk. Look at an adult's face and work out whether it's safe to come closer right now. That's what avoidant attachment is. Not coldness, a trained radar. But you don't even have to believe that part. There's something simpler. A state changes behavior, and behavior he can see. You don't send the third message, you answer evenly. You don't turn a meeting into a relationship audit. That's not mysticism. That's what he watches with his own eyes. And he sees a woman. There is nothing left to brace against. I still do it myself, honestly. Not every day in the morning when I need it. And when you start coming back there again and again, the thing happens that you probably opened this video uh, for in the first place. You don't have to perform distance anymore. You actually stop chasing, and contact with you starts to feel different. And one last thing about the Sati method. If you are doing it so that he'll write, you're holding the sheet in your hands and still looking at the phone. That's the same waiting, just with a pen now. The method only works when it's about you without switching over to him. And here's the paradox. That's exactly why it works on him too. If you want to do this practice today, I have already put the full method together for you. All 3 matrices are in there. the sequence itself, 30 days of returning, and a place for your anchor. It's free. Click under the video. Open it after this video and write down what feeling came up for you after the practice. Hold 30 days, not one. 5 minutes in the morning. Here's what I've watched with client after client. Around day 17, 18, you suddenly notice you haven't checked his stories in 3 days. And you weren't trying not to check. You just forgot. Because the pattern isn't there anymore. You have taken it under control. And one more thing. You might have a completely different pattern. You might not write to him at all. You might, or on the contrary, shut down hard. If you want this practice built for your specific situation, for what your avoidant did last week, for what you are trying to do tonight, write me a letter in Dear Sweden, link in the description. Tick a box that says personal practice. I read every letter and I ask her personally. And this isn't an autoresponder. Uh, this isn't a team. This is me at my own kitchen table in the morning writing to you. That's a promise I can make while the channel is still small, and I'll keep it as long as I physically can. And now I need to show you the other part. What to do if all of this worked well enough that he actually showed up. Because this is where anxious women very often restart the old cycle. Say a few days later, the phone lights up. Hey, how are you? And your body is already ahead of you. Heart faster, then question in your head at once. Why did he write? Does he miss me? Does he want to come back? None of that needs deciding yet. First, one principle. Don't turn the first message into a verdict on the future of your relationship. He wrote, Hey, how are you? You can answer, Hey, I'm good. How are you? That's it. That's actually it. You don't need to be called, and you don't need to get an explanation for the last hour weeks out of these first four messages. On my own first message like that, I wrote back four paragraphs. Don't do what I did. If he suggests a meeting, you can answer, yes, that day works for me. And then watch. Did he write once or he keeping contact going? Did he suggest a meeting or disappear after two messages? Does he have initiative or is all of it held up by you? Because after a return, what should interest you in action over time? One beautiful message can give you enormous relief. But relationships aren't built out of relief, they are built out of repeated presence. And the serious conversation will happen too, of course. It just doesn't have to be crammed into the first 5 minutes after he comes back. And here's where the part almost nobody talks about starts. Imagine he's back. You're seeing each other again. He's writing again. You got the thing you wanted so badly. And 2 weeks later, something else starts. Today he's a little quieter. He looked at his phone over dinner. He didn't suggest plans for this weekend. And you're scanning again. Is he leaving again? This is where it becomes clear why we were building the return state at all. Not only for the stretch when he isn't around. I mean, here is what I'm getting at. You need to be able to stay in yourself when he is right there. It's harder. I check myself every week against three simple things. First, do you have something of your own? Plans, work, and interest, an activity that exists independently of his mood. The second, Do you have time when you're just enjoying each other without analyzing their relationship? Dinner, walk, something else. A relationship needs life inside it. Otherwise, it turns into one long audit. And third, when you need something, do you say it directly? You don't scan his face. You don't wait to see whether he notices on his own. This is where an enormous difference shows up. You're not trying to guess him anymore. You're starting to be in the relationship with your own wants, with your own limits, with your own life. And that one, by the way, I learned the hard way after everything had supposedly settled down. And then a relationship is finally something you don't just preserve, you can enjoy it. And in the next video, I'll show you 7 things and a wedding is still emotionally connected to you, even when from the outside it looks like he couldn't care less. There are few signs in there anxious woman almost always miss, and a few others they take for hope when they shouldn't. Those two groups are what I want to separate. I'm sweating. This is noted this. Notice, return, choose.